Hey everyone, this is Adrienne Lopez, Integrative Awareness Coach, and I just wanted to stop by and share a couple nuggets of wisdom with you and a couple reflections and share with you some upcoming events that I'm really excited about. So, you may have heard, or I may have already shared with you that I've been working on putting together a 3-part workshop entitled The Power of Self-Awareness, Finding Your Freedom. And it's a collection of all my life's work and a little sample, a way for you to dip your toe into the architecture of consciousness and awareness, and how consciously cultivating a relationship with your own awareness can help empower you in many different ways in many different levels. And so today I wanted to share with you one key aspect that we're going to be going over in the workshop. And it has to do with creating rapport between your 3 levels of consciousness. Now, depending on who you talk to and what school of thought you're studying, as an avid learner and educator, I've spent my entire life studying and looking into consciousness from many different lenses. And one thing I've noticed, whether it's through a Western tradition of science, neuroscience, cognitive development, that I really dived into through my mindfulness training and looking at what mindfulness is through a Western lens. And a lot of the times it gets relegated to health and wellness and removed from the historical contemplative tradition that has been relegated to spirituality, which I think is very awesome and powerful, because it's not so much a spiritual practice as it is a practice for well-being. And a lot of times spiritual practices in different traditions were put in a certain box, and then if you weren't religious or you weren't spiritual, then you didn't get the benefit of using those practices. But all traditional religious and wisdom schools have traditions to accessing higher levels of consciousness, such as singing and chanting and drumming and dancing, all to put the brain into a different wavelength. And so on the other hand, if you study from, like I did, from a Eastern perspective, and you look at all the world religions, there are overlapping and parallel paradigms and models for consciousness. They might have a different vocabulary, a different way of contextualizing it. But when you really start to look at it, as I've done, what I discovered was there is an attempt to create a map of consciousness, and it's usually 3 parts. So in Western science, they talk about this as the amygdala, the limbic system, and the prefrontal cortex. In Western psychology, at least the roots of it, it was discussed as the conscious or waking consciousness, the subconscious, and the superconsciousness. And if you look at it from a yogic perspective, you can see that they talk about a gross consciousness, a subtle consciousness, and a casual consciousness. But they're all different ways of talking about different aspects of our own consciousness and how it relates to our awareness, and how this is central to our sense of well-being in the world, our sense of feeling embodied and having access to the fullest expression of our power and our potential. And because there's been so many different levels of abuse and appropriation of different religious models, it's been disconnected and so far removed from the actual intention behind the original information or the original wisdom, that it's been lost in translation. And you can see this in the Christian tradition. They talk about, at least according to the Gnostics, that there is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, which again are three aspects of consciousness on a metaphorical level. And even that interpretation of a religious text has been taken out of context. And it's amazing when it starts being put back in its proper context, that empowering model and metaphor it becomes, and we're no longer separated from our source. We actually are an expression through it if we know how it works. So I am a hypnotherapist, and when I was studying and practicing hypnotherapy quite a bit, I had the opportunity to study the well-known regression therapist. His name was Milton Erickson. And a famous quote by him is, he said he was an MD, and he realized that a lot of his patients, what they were exhibiting, the symptoms, had to do with emotion or unconscious aspects of trauma or unprocessed subconscious material. And so he actually began using hypnosis to heal his patients, the ones that were chronic and weren't getting better. And he says patients are patients because they do not have a rapport, or they've lost rapport with their subconscious mind. And so really, hypnosis is misunderstood by the broad public often, whether it's on purpose or just misinformation. Really what hypnosis is being a guide for your client, whoever comes to see you, to reconnect with all aspects of their awareness, because the logical mind has been trained to only acknowledge a certain small aspect of waking consciousness as being the only real part of ourselves. And of course, this has caused a lot of illness and dysfunction and confusion, and people unable to trust themselves, their own intuitive wisdom, always going outside to ask an authority or to get validation for what they already have inside, right? We all have this knowledge inside. When we start reconnecting to every aspect of our awareness, but it's retraining our analytical mind or our consciousness or our ego, who has lots of stories about power and about the imagination, which the subconscious, lives in archetypal images and metaphoric stories. And that's how our body speaks. That's the language of our body. And our subconscious is connected to our embodied experience. And our mind doesn't speak in that language naturally. It speaks in, thoughts and ideas or concepts. And then our superconscious mind, or our higher self, which encapsulates all of us, is at another vibration, and it is the vibration of pure presence. The perceiver, the perception of the perceiver. Thank you. The perception of the perceiver, or we're watching ourselves perceive, or watching ourselves think. And this is the higher self, and it does not function in judgment or thought. It's just pure observation and allowance. And we were meant, like a recipe, to have all three parts of our consciousness working in collaboration, in balance, and in harmony. Sometimes this has been taken as the masculine and the feminine, and then the Godhead, which is Source itself. And so we need all parts of the recipe in order to fully function in the full spectrum of our consciousness. And we can't do that if we're not connected to our own awareness, right? That's why I entitled the name of my course, The Power of Self-Awareness. Because once we become aware that we have, these multiple levels of consciousness working, we can start bringing them into our consciousness. Because if something's outside of our awareness, then we can't work with it, we can't integrate it, we can't articulate it, we can't distinguish it, and then we don't have any power over it. And it is these things that are outside of our consciousness that are there, even though we might not see them because our ego doesn't speak their language, that are affecting every area of our life. And this is why people have situations where they keep repeating patterns, or they have that one area in their life that is just that sore spot that they keep getting blindsided, or getting stopped, or aren't able to fully be in. Like there's a unconsciousness or a falling asleep in that part of their lives, and they're not sure why. And so in this course, we're going to look at all of that and how the nervous system works as an extension of the brain and consciousness, and how we can intentionally bring our awareness to recreate that connection between all aspects of our consciousness on purpose, so that we can fully function at the level in which we were meant to. Now, some people say that becoming aware of who you truly are can sometimes be painful. And I say, not really. The pain's already there. That's what actually created the disconnection or the disassociation from self. Was something perceived as painful, something that was perceived as threatening to your being. And so the part of your mind that protects you, which is your ego, went ahead and built a little structure around it to protect you. And it's housed there. And it's in your subconscious mind. And that unconscious level of pain that has not been processed, and the reason why it's there and the reason why it's not processed is because it's based on something that's not true. And this happens when we're very young, from the ages of 1 to 7. We do not have a fully functioning, or I should say fully developed nervous system or critical thinking faculties. And we don't necessarily know how to contextualize information. And so things get planted in our subconscious mind that are always, they're outside of time and space to our unconscious mind, because that's where it lives, are constantly reoccurring. And this takes a lot of our life energy in order to maintain this separation, to keep these levels of experiences below our level of consciousness. And so what I'm talking about is, as we begin to as we began to create more fluidity in our consciousness and the different levels of our consciousness, we free up a lot of our energy and life force that has been resisting life to a certain degree out of protection. To some degree, these are adaptive stress responses that were put in place. They had a good intention, which was to protect us, but now they're actually limiting us on many levels, and our ego or conscious mind most often doesn't even know that they're there. So that's really what we're going to be talking about, and I hope you can join me. I put it on early bird registration until July the 8th, so that's 6 days. And I put it at a reasonable price so everyone can afford to come. And I would love to have you come and join me for 3 Thursdays. They're going to be 90 minutes, interactive, intensive workshop where I'm going to share with you secrets of your own consciousness, the ways that your consciousness has been built and how it functions, and how you can become a collaborator and befriend all the different aspects of your consciousness and bring them into awareness so you can fully access the fullness which is you. And so this, my friends, is, as I mentioned, a collection of my life work. This information is priceless, and but I want you to have it. I want everyone to know this, so you don't have to spend 20 more years of your life trying to figure out, why you are constantly anxious around some situation or some person, or why you don't trust yourself, or why you, don't have the confidence to actually go and fulfill your dream out in the world and do the things that you really long to, but you keep pushing to the back burner. You keep waiting for that day when it will be the right day. And today is the right day to choose you, to choose yourself. And it's really that simple. So I hope you can join me. It's going to start July the 15th. It's a Thursday. It's going to be the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. And it's a space for you to be held and guided through looking at all aspects of your awareness so that you can be fully and authentically at choice about your life and how you get to show up in it. So I hope you will please consider joining me. I'd love to have you. And you can click on the link that's here in the description, and you can check if you want more information, you can come and check it out and see more details about what's going to be included. All right, until next time, please remember what a valuable treasure you are, and bye for now.